All right, good morning, folks. I am barely prepared, and I got a lot of you guys are wanting to get rolling with this video, so here we are. So I want to talk a little bit about the shutdown and why this we have a high potential for this to be one that's longer than many that's happened. But in order to do that, I think we should probably discuss what's at play and why this is such a big battle. First of all, this administration, President Trump and this administration, they are definitely a first in a lot of areas, and this is no different than pretty much everything else that's been going on since election time. So, at play is the main part is the Affordable Care Act subsidies. That was from the Obama administration, and it allows people to go in the marketplace, pick up insurance, and that insurance grants tax credits. In other words, it's cash back at tax season. Okay. Now, what's being argued here is not so much the subsidy itself, but the premium tax credits, because it becomes quite unaffordable for those that do not have Medicaid. There are lots of areas of the country that may not have Medicaid. And so what would happen is people already pay absurd amounts. I used to pay for that stuff, okay? And I got no tax credit, all right? So I'm paying, at the time I was paying $600. Without these premium tax credits, even in a small level, it would cause most people's premiums to go from 6, 7, 800 to roughly 2,000, okay? But what's interesting is the way all this is designed and how it's considered a credit and cash back during tax season is really the fact that it really ain't for the rich, and it certainly is not for those that are poor. It's those in between people, the medium class. So it seems that these tax credits really do service a special group of people. Look, this is flawed. This is you hear me clearly. Please hear me clearly. This is flawed. This is what we're arguing over. This is what we're shutting shit down for. We got a lot of things going on, okay? People being kicked out, put on planes, thrown out of the nation. Okay, every federal agencies we're killing the herd. Too many people that didn't work to start with being let go, and now we got this drama, and it's over subsidies that were written during the Obama administration. I never did. I don't have a problem with Obama. I thought he's charismatic, cool dude. However, his policies certainly. I'm only engaging the man as a person, not as the president. Okay, just like Trump. I like the way he does business. Sometimes he likes leverage, and so this is leverage. The Democrats have almost no leverage. This allows that. Okay, this is like an extortion or even blackmail. The Democrats know that they can hold this hostage unless they get what they want. The Republicans aren't going to give an inch. They might have had it been any other president, but Trump, one thing you're not going to do is leverage the leverager. Okay, Trump is a leverage man. If he don't like the way something's going, he'll raise your tarps to 5,000%, and then when you come around and think clearly, you'll negotiate. Right? I don't. If it was any other president, I would say that there would probably be some resolution, but I don't see that happening. I don't see President Trump sitting in his office going, well, there's a lot of pressure from the public. Why don't we give in? Now, what I see is a fantastic run of government shutdown well into November. I don't see this ending in 30 days. Neither party is going to give an inch. I mean, right now, they both parties have their own agenda and not even talking to each other. This is crazy. Like kindergartners, I've got my list. I got my list for Santa Claus from the Democrat side, and I've got my Christmas list from the Republican side. And neither party wants to meet in the middle. Okay. President Trump says, hey, we'll talk after the leverage is gone. Well, there's not much to discuss once the leverage is gone either. You'd have to be a fool. And at this point, I don't think either party's a fool. This is going to be a tough one. Honestly, there was less of an argument during 2018 at 31 days shutdown. I have every reason to believe this could go on for 2 months. And look, the overall effect of this, during the last 31-day run, it really only affected the gross domestic demand about 1%. So, albeit the government be shut down and us ordinary citizens and military and federal employees may not be paid during that period, there's not a real big consequence to keeping things shut down other than a bunch of angry, pissed off people and a lot of people not getting a check that work for the federal government, okay? It's not going to create a bigger issue in our economy. However, if panic sets in, it will, because decisions are made behind a lot of things in economics. And so we've never tested the mounds. So we're at 10 days and, there's no real conversation, in my opinion, happening in terms of closing this down. In terms of what I do for a living, I deal with Section 8. And so HUD is obviously a federal agency that deals in that arena. They're staffed at 2,300, about one-fifth of what they used to be. Right now, they're zero staffed, and it shut down the whole system. Be honest with you guys, this could really carry on all the way to the end of the year, I mean, if need be, because most of the federal budget's already cooked anyways. Most of the activities and resources that come through most of these federal agencies there's not much happens this time of season anyways. So technically this could go on. I have no reason to believe it's going to end in the next week. And we get another 7 days in, and they're still talking about separate Christmas lists. I would imagine that we're going to get all the way in there. I believe that there will be probably a lot of public pressure as we approach Thanksgiving. So I'm speculating. Obviously, this is not my field of work, but for those of you that watch your channel in terms of housing, Section 8, and subsidies, which a lot of you that are Republican hate that idea and concept, please don't come here and moan about it, okay? I'm not here to make anybody feel better, but I talk about the subject matter because it matters in that respect. Seniors and disabled being able to utilize housing. Look, whether you're receiving Affordable Care Act subsidies or premium tax credits to help your low-income family, or you're receiving housing choice voucher through a Section 8 program, it's all the same thing. It's money. It's money given out in different ways through the government. If you're a taxpayer and you're legally here in the U.S., these things, I think the money party is starting to come to an end because our country is trillions in debt. The interest alone is reaching a point where it's greater than our gross domestic demand. It means that we have now borrowed more money against ourselves than we possibly can produce in a physical year. I don't see another 100 years of America operating this way. Because when the interest outgrows our ability to even pay, then we got to start looking at other sources. And a good start is Apple, Amazon, Google, and all these big corporations I mentioned last video. If you've got companies keeping that have a warehouse with $500 billion in money sitting around, okay, they're making so much money that they have $500 billion in liquidable assets in cash, and when we're keeping that in Ireland and other countries, then maybe a big part of the spending bill should be, let's start talking about taxing companies for real. If you're going to operate and sell in this country, then we need 35% of everything you make, or get the hell out. But if you get out, you're not going to be sold. Not a single toaster is going to come in this country. That's the only real way this country is going to find itself out of this money burden. You cannot fund the country on the back of middle class people and then have companies operate and plus trillions in the bank and go hide that in offshore businesses and shams and other countries where they're only being charged 3% interest. This is nuts. The American people cannot foot this bill. If you're going to make money off the back of the Americans, then your company needs to be subject to the king and the queen of America. You shouldn't be allowed to do those things. That's what really needs to be. If we're going to sit here shut down government, it ought to be over that. To have a real discussion about reining this shit in. And look, hey, you know what? We're going to give you 60 days, or we're going to close Amazon, Apple, and Google. You shut you down. We'll take all your assets. You either bring your shit back to this country, pay your back taxes at 35%, make it fucking payable in cash or check, or your company will be dissolved and you're gone. That's how you solve trillion-dollar problems through trillion-dollar companies that pay nothing. Allowed to operate. That'd be like me opening up a Burger King in the middle of in a village in India, and I'm allowed to sell my Whoppers out there, right? But here's the deal: I don't need to pay no local taxes. This is a scam. I can't believe that we can't seem to solve that problem. The biggest majority of the money we should be collecting is from companies, not small ones, the big ones, and these damn banks. So if anybody disagrees with that, and you're a company hugger, you're a corporate hugger, please let me know. We want to have a shutdown. Let's have a shutdown of Google, Amazon, and the rest. This is nuts. And I talked to some people from Ireland where we send trillions of dollars. Nobody there's benefiting from that money. It's just quietly tucked away. Apple sitting on, what is this, $800 million and loose cash. We fill up a stadium. Loose cash sitting there in Ireland, right? But we ain't doing shit about that. But we're going to sit here and argue about some bullshit that happened 15 years ago under Obama about subsidies. We're going to close down the entire government. The military can't get paid. Nobody can get paid because we're talking about tax credits because we have blackout areas in the country. We may not have Medicare. I get that, but that's not sufficient to shut down government. If the rules aren't right, then we need to change this shit, okay? If Congress can't operate properly, then we need to change the rules of Congress and the House. Just like they did out here in Texas where I'm from. If you don't like your voter district, then change the damn thing. That's a business. We're still operating on rules that were made 300 years ago, but people had no idea what corporations are. We're still operating under titles and acts from people that didn't even know the difference between a vaccine and a blood transfusion. These people don't even know what a fucking TB is, but yet they made the rules that we live by 300 years later. We allow the dinosaurs to make our rules, and here we are practicing the rules and policies of ancient people. At some point, we need to review this whole fucking system because it's out of control. Literally 300-year-old people made all the rules. I get, there are freedoms in the country, but you know what? That's a great idea when you start a country. But what happens is we get along further as a country. We need to adopt policies that work in modern days and stop looking at what happened with Lucy and other monkeys that swung through the tree or whatever it is out there 2,000 years ago and decided to write a Bill of Acts. These people, I'm serious. Back in those days, women were still property. These are the people that are making rules for us today. We still operate Congress like we're operating 400 years ago. This shit all needs to change. And allowing companies to sell all their product here and pay nothing for it in tax, it should be a crime. Dissolvable. Russia don't put up with it. See, Russia is different, but I wouldn't want to live in that country either because the way they do that, they take all your shit, okay? But I understand the premise. Maybe we need to consider a new set of rules in this country, rights and responsibilities that match the modern age. Not back when people had wooden teeth. Does anybody disagree with this? Are we all okay with this? That 300-year-old people made these rules? Good morning, Dad. Sweet Sugar Rice. Yep, quote me 450. Nad, all migrants are still getting benefits. Well, as a country, we, anytime you want to fill the stadium, we did that. The stadiums have been filled. America's full now. We don't need to sell any more tickets to other countries. Okay, a good indicator that the borders close is when we cannot even pay our national debt. Okay, so we need to stop selling tickets to other places. People coming here wanting to cash in on America. We can't even get the Americans that own companies to pay their bill. Why? Because Congress allows tax-related scams that allow these companies basically to pay jack shit and then sit on trillions of dollars in other countries. Yeah, I'll open up a satellite location. We'll open up Google office and mini storage somewhere in the bush in Africa. We'll put $500 billion into that and call it our corporation headquarters. And then we'll just put are manufactured in the U.S. and we'll just pay 1%. And then we'll ask Congress and the House to tax all the middle class Americans and make them pay to run the entire country without our money. So we'll just suck the life out of the country, and then we'll suck the life out of the people that live in the country while we sit here and make trillions. I'd love to see some legislation take over these companies, seriously. Dissolve this shit. Yeah, it's handy to have all this stuff in the internet, but look, not at the cost of losing our country and its soul. Preppy Princess, good morning and welcome to the channel. This is why I'm moving to Montana. Why? Because I can get as far away as possible from the politicians. Where people, where it's not easy to run into all this stuff. I hope my TV doesn't work out there. I'm fed up with all of it. And I just find it imaginative. We're following rules and policies that were written hundreds of years ago. That'd be like taking advice from a caveman. I mean, is there anything that we do new? Christopher John Derewood says, wouldn't believe what I had to go through to qualify for this low-income housing handicap apartment. I would believe you after working in the industry 26 years. I'm surprised I didn't ask you to get out the wheelchair and walk. Nad, good question, Susan. Preppy Princess is laughing. Lisa, the goal is not to have Congress. Get popcorn and watch. I'm not watching this shit. Look, first thing I'll read tech articles and science. Everything else in the newspapers, nonsense to me. Seriously. Now I make videos, but the videos don't pay either. YouTube don't pay anything. Christopher John, if you don't have everything exactly how they want it and they make it make sense, you'll be disqualified this game. Miss Bibbins, hello, I'm disabled. I have a voucher you've had a voucher for 15 years. I'm in fear of a letter from Section 8 saying bye-bye. I'm going to address that in a minute, okay? So in terms of you out there right now, all public housing authorities across the nation are operating on reserve funds, some of which have run out, okay? There are people are, oh, yeah, your voucher's safe. No, it's not. No voucher in the country is safe. It's only safe until the reserve burns out. Much of these reserves, most housing authorities have an operable budget or reserve to operate roughly about a month, maybe a little longer. And that's if they were operating properly. So for a lot of you, if this were to go on too much longer, then eventually the payments will stop. There won't be the money for it. Not only that, but the consequence of too low of funding means that anybody attempting to get vouchers going forward until we adopt some better funding for our housing, you're looking at possible vouchers that would be worthless. In other words, it only pay only a fraction of what it used to against rent, and a lot of landlords aren't going to want that. In other words, you're packing around a coupon. Okay, so that's part of the problem, dissolving programs, cutting half the funding, firing everybody at HUD, selling their building, and then having the government shut down. It doesn't get much worse than this. In fact, this is as bad as it gets. There's no other scenario. Unless we have a war or God starts walking on the planet, there's no other greater instance when it could get worse. This is the worst case scenario. We're all seeing it. But big changes often create the biggest reactions. You can't change the system by doing things that are mild. President Trump is taking some major leaps with this. There's a game plan in play, and it will benefit those that qualify, seniors and disabled. But it's going to eliminate the vast majority, 50 to 60% of the whole vouchers will likely be eliminated or put under time or work requirements. That was the way the system was originally designed to operate. We lost control of that somewhere along the line. Moving back down, lease of the country has already been sold. That's true. And to some degree, that's true. That's why I'm going to the last patch of forest that hasn't been cut down in Montana. Me and the cats are hoping to enjoy 4 foot of snow, horrible winters, and a little bit of gold in the river because I plan on having a hobby, at least when the water's not frozen. Still make these videos because I enjoy them. We'll have clean air, no more need for HEPA filters, no more driving around in Houston and wondering if I flip the bird because I'm upset at a slow driver, if I will get a gunshot to my head. At least in Montana, they have the decency to pull out a clean rifle and a new bullet and warn you. You know, you won't be shot by surprise out there. They'll at least shake your hand before they kill you. More than I can say for living in Houston. Brian McFarland effects. I work in tech and it's very competitive jobs now. A buddy of mine was laid off 5 months ago and he finally got a job. He had to accept $30,000 less a year. So even tech companies with all their money will still leverage their own people. They will let you go, lay you off, and hire you back as a toilet cleaner. This is getting too big. And when you allow the corporations to get too big as they are now, then eventually they'll make so much money that they can actually beat the U.S. government. More money, more lawyers, more ability, more lobbyists. They'll have purchase power to buy entire states. We let this shit go another 100 years, they'll be able to buy the moon and its stars. Why? Because instead of that money going into the tax base of America, so we don't have shutdowns, it goes in the pocket of the corporation as pure gold profit. And it doesn't profit everybody that works at the company. No, those are all subjects of the king and the queen. It goes to one man, a handful of men, a handful of white men possess 10 or 15% of the world's wealth. You know, we know who those men are. They've got more money than they can buy at this point. They can buy an entire state, buy all the real estate. Another 100 years, these corporations, they'll be able to buy entire countries. God help us if they ever buy a country, they'll be able to make their own rules. And then after that, they can make their own militaries. And who's going to stop them with that kind of money? The only way to stop that is to stop their ability to sell their products and make them pay taxes like every other person. You know? So we talk about government shutdowns. Let's look at the truest root of all this shit. We're arguing because we have money. If we had money, none of this would be an argument, would it? There'd be no government shutdown. But as long as we allow corporations to continue to dissolve America and take all its money, and then force the U.S. government to tax the shit out of the middleman, average Americans, so we are left poor. And when we spend money, it all has to go to the company. Then this is where we're going to be going. These things are going to be like the lottery. Remember, you buy a lottery ticket and people would win a couple of million. Now they figured out ways to turn it into $1 billion. So the reality of it is these shutdowns will be the same way. They'll keep getting bigger and bigger because we're printing money we do not have. We're printing money on the future of money. That's a problem. It's a big problem for this country. It's a problem for everybody in the world. Moving on from there, Christopher John, if you are 62 years and older, disabled, always have a plan B. In the world we live in today, guys, you need to have plan A, B, and C. Even I, with this trip I'm taking in my RV that I'm buying and putting 3 cats in and traveling 1,600 miles over probably a week, I'll have 3 plans in play. Okay? A, B, and C. Because anything can and will happen. Newton, I don't know if that's Newton's third law or not, or who it was, but you got to have multiple backups. If you don't, failure is a big one. Ned, I wonder if California now can renew driver's license, or is that shot down? I couldn't tell you, brother. Laura C, B2, thrift the runway. Might you know about one-shot deals? How we can get those? Well, I don't know what if you're talking about a one-shot deal, I don't know what deal you're speaking of. Brian McFarland, restaurants are getting empty. Restaurants are empty just like Walmart. Between bad service and high prices, nobody wants to put up with that shit. You wonder why Amazon's so successful? Well, people get tired of going to Walmart with zero service, people with an attitude, and freaked out prices. It'd be easier to get screwed by Amazon and not to deal with anybody's attitude. This is why Amazon succeeds. It doesn't have any people that talk shit to you. It bags your groceries for you in a box, so you don't have to deal with the attitude. So, yeah. Brian goes on. We buy only essentials and groceries. I do the same thing. I buy what's required for my household. And since we have been planning our trip now for about 2 days, and I know it's going to take me about 2 years, moving there is not the problem. Selling all the shit is. You know, it's a lot of work. I mean, I've been posting things on Facebook Marketplace. I got like 4 items of probably 10,000. How long is this flipping going to take, you know? So, government shutdown, nobody's going to want to give. No matter which way you play the game, it's going to be spending more money. The only thing that can probably stop this shutdown is going to be public pressure for the holidays. As a president, 10 days, nobody's really trying to cooperate. There's no real action happening there. In fact, I believe that some of these lawmakers are just using it as a reason to vacation in their beach homes and not do shit, okay? But the problem with shutdowns, here's the ultimate effect. You shut down long enough, people will burn down Washington, D.C. Okay? Do not underestimate the ability of Americans to riot. You shut it down too long, I'm telling you, the sticks and the matches and the gas cans will come out. People ain't going to put up with this shit forever. If you guys up there at Capitol want to do your job or y'all can't get along, the American people will show up at your door and we'll burn your office down. Okay? There'll be riots. Now, am I suggesting that's going to happen? No, that's worst case scenario. More like a Hollywood version. But don't think you're going to go on too long with this. You're testing the patience and the will of the American people. There are 360 million of us. Do not think that people won't come out the woodworks, armed to the teeth, with gas or a match. Because they will. They've done it in the past, okay? You want civil disarrest? Keep pushing this shit. And then remind the country of the holiday we're coming up on Thanksgiving. Look, you're asking for it. Your boys up there in Congress need to get it straightened out because you don't want what's coming. And it will come if you guys don't want to do something. And I think they will. I think this is the showdown's just a match of wits. And it's definitely probably the perfect storm because Democrats have no leverage, and this gives that to them. And Trump don't give no leverage. And it's a perfect storm for this to last a very long time because neither party is going to want to do what the other wants. And they don't care. They don't care because they're the ones that got money and have big homes. The rest of us out here, well, we may have a home, we may not. We may be renting. And we're already paying absurd prices for everything. And so these shutdowns are really testing the patience of America. Not only that, but at play and through many federal agencies, including military, you keep not paying the military or as people, they're going to stop defending borders. Okay, these are still American people that have families. You keep it shut down, and you put 5 million people at risk of being homeless. 5 to 6 million. You're asking for trouble. Okay, trust me. Whether you like homeless programs and whether they pay or not, do you really want 6 million people homeless in your streets every day, in your grocery store, your gas station, and on the freeway? Because that's exactly what these people are going to be. And when they can't get money from Congress, they're going to be at your window, at your car window. And when you walk down the sidewalk to walk your dog and you see doo-doo on the sidewalk, well, there you go. You keep defunding all this, there could be some big problems. So we need to come up with an amicable solution that doesn't put everybody on the sidewalk. You do not want trust me on this, you don't want 6 million homeless people. I'm telling you, it'll be chaos. Stores will probably get robbed and looted, and the prices will go up again. A lot of driving factors, okay? That's just a terrible, terrible idea. Moving on from there, thrift the runway. One shot deal. Okay. Hidden knowledge. The shutdown should last for over 30 days. I'm betting on over 30 days. Okay. I'm betting on it, but that's speculation. I'm speculating like you guys. Lisa, I think it's preface for martial law. Well, I think we already have martial law. I mean, when we put every federal agency on the street, including the military and multiple cities, what more do you need to see on the street when you've got people that are armed and wearing military uniforms? Whether you call it martial law or not, it's still martial law. And when you federalize the military to be able to arrest, it's the same thing without signing it. Okay? There's risk with that. And the risk is you push Americans into rioting. Okay? The reason it hasn't been riots that much is because it's only affecting subgroups, primarily based on those that people believe to be illegally here, is why it's garnered patience from Americans. Have this been overall for all Americans, it'd be a big problem. Christopher John, I'm still doing my nonprofit to build a Gen X disability compound, plan the system for what it's worth legally. Well, you'd probably be able to play it pretty well. You file your incorporation in Maryland, hide your money in Ireland, you'll be doing well. Another one less dollar for America. Pretty soon we'll have to build the freeways with Chinese people again. As other countries started, how do you think we got railroads? We're going to have to import Chinese people to build our roads because we can't afford it. Sweet and Sugar, I like that name. Brian, come live in my Lich building. I'd said I wouldn't live in half the Lich or tax credit properties in this nation. And the reason I won't is because a lot of them have been my clients, and ain't no damn way I would ever want to be a neighbor to some of these folks because there's a lot of problems in those properties. Hidden knowledge. Our country was in serious trouble even before Trump. Well, yeah, the country's been in trouble for a long time, and we're not the only one that has troubles. Every country's got them. They got countries with inflation so high, it's like one penny's $1 trillion, and like Zimbabwe, you ever heard about their inflation problems? You got small countries taking loans they never pay off, and they end up in massive inflation. Brazil had that problem. We're heading that direction. It starts small, and while we get used to it, it becomes big. From 2000 to current, man, we have drawn massive $30 trillion in debt. I honestly just don't think we're ever going to pay that off. I mean, interest payments, $1 trillion a year. Are you kidding me? And you think Apple, Google, and the rest are going to chip in a penny towards that? No. Freddie frickin', a lie. If Obama was doing this type of shit, the Republicans would be up in arms. I have no idea what you're talking about. But if you come in this fucking channel and call me a liar, brother, you're out. Okay, I'm not going to deal with that bullshit. You go have your opinions in your own home. I welcome all opinions, man. But when you make shit personal, come on this channel and make it personal. All right? All right, Hidden Knowledge, good to see you. Well, guys, I talked about my opinion of the shutdown and some potentials out there. I think it's good to talk open air. It doesn't mean that I'm an expert in that area. I'm an expert in housing. I think it's good to share ideas, but we don't need to de-evolve this into getting personal and accusing and all that. Okay, those are signs of schizophrenia. Okay, when we have people that talk like they're schizophrenic, I have to put a muzzle on them and kick their ass out the channel. I ain't got time to deal with that. Okay, we can talk and be civil. We can be uncivil, but when the paranoia kicks in, you forgot your pill this morning, then you got to go, Flo. I don't have time for that. So I'm hoping in our next video, we'll talk a little bit more about Section 8. And so that will be a lot of you will not be interested. So I would say don't tune in the next video. I'm going to talk a little bit about Section 8 landlords. So I think, it's important for us to continue to keep a dialogue open about Section 8 and housing for those that are here for that purpose, even if it's not a great market. Because when the market gets good again and things kick up and relight again in 2026, then it means we've continued our education through a tough part. it doesn't mean that I need to close down the entire topic. But in between, honestly, when there's zero happening across the news, it makes it exceptionally hard for me to make videos, right? And nobody wants to watch mind-numbing half-an-hour videos on how to get a Section 8 voucher. So I've got to mix this stuff up, or otherwise I'll expire in my own office. Christopher John, I do not recommend the handicap Hilton in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Well, I thank you for that recommendation. Lisa, what happens if we default on debt? I don't know. I imagine we'll print some more. If we run out of ways to print money, then we'll have to go down to Montana and go sluice and find gold in the streams. If we run out of that, then we'll have to dig up the mountains in California and shake all the gold out of there. That'll give us a couple billion more. That don't work, then I don't know. It seems to be that the only thing left would be to switch the country to communism, seize all the companies, Amazon and all that, sell all their shit, pay off their debt, and then we can flip the switch back on and become democratic again. I don't know. I don't know what works. I think that what they created 300 years ago worked for a long time, and it's no longer working that well. So maybe the future holds a different kind of system. Communism doesn't seem to work. The American way doesn't seem to work. What we need to work on as humans on a planet, if the old ways don't work, then we need to start looking at what does. It means it's time to advance society past what our founders did and start looking at newer and better ways to run things. Because as far as I can tell, nearly every country on the planet is in trouble. The monetary system we have in place is horrible. It taxes, indentures, and debts everybody. I'll be glad in the future when I'm not alive, when money is no longer the issue. We're a debt-free society, and we base our material wealth on different things than money. Of course, that's asking a lot in limited America, right? It'd be hard because a lot of people are addicted to this. You think crack cocaine's addictive? Look, being American and that money, that's addictive. It makes people do crazy shit. You know, you come out here, you buy up hotels, motels. You can have power and go up to Congress and make decisions for people you never met in your life. Power and money, that's what America is. It doesn't work. It only services 1% to 5%. The rest are just slaves. We're indentured for a lifetime of debt. So what we do, we wake up, we buy shit. We have to go make more money, then buy more shit. And we owe somebody. And we continue to owe them till we die. We literally buy and sell till we kill ourselves. That isn't much of life. But that's all right. My plan is I'm going up to Montana. I'm going to dig me up a couple grams of gold every week. Enjoy what life I have left. Do a little bit of consulting. Retire mostly. And just enjoy nature. Enjoy nature the way God designed it. And get out to Concrete City. Get away from all the crazy people. And just go out there and see the world as it should be. And I'm looking forward a lot to that. All right, so Lisa says, thank you, Jay. I'm disabled. I wish I could work. Well, I wish you could too. Working is a good thing. Mingo, gender is located in the soul. Boy, you guys are really picking some really off topics. We have recommendations for hotels. We have references to where gender is located in the soul. I appreciate the magical wisdom of all of you guys. But y'all do say some very off-the-wall things in this chat channel. I guess it makes it an interesting channel. Hot dog. There should be mandatory 1 hour tax-free pay given to employees for each day. You know, an easier way to run the country would be to just tax everybody, including every business, 30%. Automatic. Only be taxed once. Stores no longer tax. No more taxes on anything in the stores. Simple. You get a paycheck, and before you receive the paycheck, 30% is gone. You receive everything. You receive all your services, and that'd be the end of it. Okay? This complicated game. You make a paycheck, you get taxed. You drive the gas station, you get taxed again. At the end of the year, you get taxed again. By the time we get through this, half your money is gone. You guys just don't realize that. God says true people stay here forever. Well, they can stay here forever, at least till we climb to the stars, and then I guess we can go anywhere in the universe. People probably would get tired of sitting on this old rock. I'm sure the aliens are looking at the planet. Here are the people that live on a rock and never leave it. All right, guys. Well, I've enjoyed just kind of shooting the breeze with you guys. I didn't really have a great plan for the video. I know we would talk about the shutdown a little bit. Sometimes I can be entertaining when I talk to people, especially if I have one of my moods going on. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Section 8 landlords, and just to prep you in the future, okay? Whatever you do, don't pop out your wallet and start investing right now. It's not a good time. I think that we have a lot of potential in 2026. I think this country we're shaking out the dust, and America's shaking out all the dust, and we're trying to we're evolving a little bit, and we're revisiting everything that we do, and we're trying to figure out new ways to do it. And I think that through this process, at least for what I do for a living, Section 8 and housing is going to be reinvented largely through the next couple of years. And the new system will be in place for quite a while. After that, by 2030, I would expect housing in Section 8, along with many federal agencies, moving to AI. And a lot of your decisions in order to get housing or deal with any federal agency or any of your needs for Medicare, Medicaid, all of it will likely begin AI. I'm pretty sure artificial intelligence is already rolled out pretty largely. I expect that a bigger chunk of that to happen by 2030. So a lot of impartial decision making will be decided by the fate of machines. Okay. And the interesting thing is, a lot of these AIs, when you call on a phone, you think you're talking to somebody real. They talk just as real as a human. You're not able to distinguish. The only reason I was able to distinguish it because they were too fucking pleasant. I'm not used to talking to AIs. They're too nice, right? And so one day I called the place. I'm not going to say who, but I called, and she was just way too bubbly, right? It was professional, nice, not bubbly. And so I realized very quickly I was talking to an AI, because I know Americans. They're not that fucking nice, okay? There was no way anybody could be that professional and nice all at the same time. So I knew I was dealing with an AI, and I did confirm that. A real American would tell you to fuck off, or conversations go up and down with real Americans on the phone, no matter who you're calling. So that's how I knew. So we're in for interesting times, and so is housing. A lot of our markets and financials are already run by AI. This is nothing new. What we're doing is we're pushing it farther into society, where the capabilities of artificial intelligence are making the decisions on who's lying and who's not. But impartiality is a good thing, provided the programmers are impartial. So I think that there is a bright future in AI. But like any good thing, I'm sure there are going to be people that try to ruin us over it. And so we'll have to see what the future does hold with that. Laura says, I like your humor, Jay. Thanks for helping us out. I try. I don't have the same energy I did 26 years ago. So I'm more like talking to Uncle Bob, the one that had too many beers at the barbecue and said some shit that wasn't good. That's usually me. That's everyday life me. Some of my clients, oh, you're not professional. Well, why would I care about that anymore? I'm retiring. I mean, just short of telling you to go to hell, it doesn't matter to me. My job was to do a job, not to entertain or please. I'm not Amazon. I'm not here to please you. I'm just here to do my job. And the less I have to deal with nonsense, the better. Saint, we'll just call you Saint, FAFO. If they shut down too long, we may learn that we don't need them. Hey, it all goes back to the can of gas and the matches. You take a shit on the American people too long, and I'm telling you, people are going to show up there in Congress. Ain't going to be friendly. Okay, President Trump proved you can garner an audience outside of a government building in a heartbeat, okay? And that was just some people. When the entire government decides it wants to play games, don't think all Americans won't show up. There are more of us than there are police and federal agents. But look, we're not, this is not the Hunger Games. It's not the Hunger Games, guy. We're not going to win a prize by storming the Capitol and all that stuff. So let's just wait to see what them old white folks do up there in Congress. Seems to me we ought to hire some young ones to put them in there. The ones that aren't 80 and 90 might have a little bit better touch of the heartbeat of America. Quit hiring politicians out the nursing home. I understand there's wisdom with age, but shit, man. Look, when people start getting 80, 90, and 100, is that really a good idea? Do you think these men and women, the 70, 80, and 90, understand what's happening socially in this country for people that are 20, 30, 40, and 50? Fuck no. Okay, so I'm not saying that older people don't have wisdom. They have plenty. But is it a great idea to have them and them only, solely, run the U.S. government? I think it's a terrible idea. Laura, so you keep it real, speak the truth. Oprah says, someone told me to go to hell, and I told him to send me a postcard. Well, that's a good idea, actually. Hidden knowledge. Montana is a lot cooler than Northern California, just warm. Well, to be honest with you, I'm not going to buy a coat. I'm going to arrive in Montana and see what everybody else is wearing. I mean, I'm going to bring my leather jacket, which is never going to work in that state, except for probably summer. And I will be making a video begging you guys that are from Idaho, Montana, and upper parts of California, Washington, and Oregon. I'm making a video addressing you guys so y'all can help me out a bit, because we're taking a long trip and it's a bit of a gamble. I'm going to plan, but you can't plan for something you don't know. A lot of you guys live up there in the north and you understand the weather. You know how many daylight hours there are. The mood and attitude of small communities. I'm not going out there to upset the people in Montana. I'm trying to fit in, even if I have to buy a pair of shit kickers from the boot store. Whatever it takes for me and my cats to enjoy ourselves in retirement out there. So we'll see if they want a city slicker in their town. So it's all about earning the trust and respect of people in your community. You can do that by being honest. Freak out, Tim. Welcome back. We are the people our parents warned us about, of course. And the people before us, the last generation ain't no better than the one in the current. Everybody blames the past generation or the future. Ain't not a single generation better than the next. Joseph Barr, they work out a deal in a few days, I hope. Boy, you really are asking for you're asking the government to blow a unicorn out of its ass if you're expecting them to come to a deal in a couple of days. Let's be honest here, guys. Have you been drinking, Joseph? Joseph, you've got to get on to AA, baby. Look, they're not going to be blowing a unicorn out their ass. There is no solution in the gumbo pot in Congress right now, okay? Guys, really. So I look at it, I read the news, and hey, Joseph, don't take it personal. I'm just picking on you a little bit. Cutie pie, Southern Eastern Washington State, highly recommended. Well, my avenues for, I really do want to remain either Montana, Washington, or Oregon on the primary. I'm not moving to California. Forget it. What would be the point of retiring out there and then be hit with a tidal wave of inflation and crazy shit? Okay, I'm not doing that. So I'm nothing against you guys who live in California. I don't want that for me and my cats. I think parts of Washington, Oregon, and Montana. Right now, the plan is Montana. But if I start to see there's going to be problems with that, then I'll start looking at Idaho and Oregon and Washington. Those are the only states I'm willing to go to and retire. It's got to be requirements. It's got to have mountains. It's got to have a little bit of snow, but can't be too damn extreme. Okay, I'm gonna be trapped in my trailer, RV. I can't get to the Piggly Wiggly. The hell's the point in that? I'm not gonna go out there and me and the cat march 4 foot of snow and go kill a deer. Okay, look, it's too much. Maybe I can have a pet deer, feed him all season. When shit gets tough, just go shooting. But I don't feel good about killing animals that often. So, all right, Oprah's no deal until the end of the month. That sounds a little bit more reasonable. So I call that a zebra out of Congress ass, not a unicorn. Christopher John, I like that you cuss and carry on. People in YouTube try so hard. You watch people, you know that they cuss like sailors, right? And they get on YouTube, they put on that good shot of lipstick, they blow hairspray in their hair, they put on Gucci and Armani, they talk like the perfect white cracker in the deal. They look like an eyewitness news professional. Now, you know, you meet them down at the pub on the corner of the street and they talk like a sailor, right? All I'm doing is being me, genuine. If YouTube don't like cursing, then they would have already ruled that out. As far as I know, I'm not allowed to drop an F-bomb the first 30 seconds of the video, which is extremely difficult for me. And try not to drop multiples. And I try not to. But I mean, we're on YouTube. It's part entertainment value. And, you know, it's all about saying what you need to say and being genuine. Even if you are disgustingly atrocious in the way you speak. Sullivan, do not do that. Now, Sullivan, are you trying to dictate how I operate as a person? That won't work out. Or do. Well, I appreciate that. Preppy Princess, don't even have Section 8, but your delivery is hilarious. I'm glad. I hope the people in Montana see me as funny as well. If you think I'm a hoot, you ought to see me after I've had about 2 beers, and I don't do alcohol very well. Because I'm real genuine then, and then that's probably when I get shot in Montana. You go out there and you smack your lips a little bit, and when the local hits you with a bullet, you mean like sitting at the bar stool, and next thing, pow, and next thing you know, you done run your mouth too much. Wake up, your pocket ain't got no more gold in it. Your IQ went down about 30 to 60 degrees because you lost part of your brain. It's on the side of the bar stool. So be careful about smacking your lips and alcohol. You don't want to do that in Montana. People won't take no shit off people out there. Laura C., I think you're hilarious. Well, thank you. All right, guys, I need to roll this up. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here ranting. I'm really not sorry, but I am ranting. So I've enjoyed you guys. We'll see you next time in 24 hours. I hope we have something better to talk about because honestly, this whole video was a struggle and I'm not a very good comedian. So, all right. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.